everybody. It is I, the Great Clement, as always, with my favorite co-host.
Top of the morning, or afternoon, or evening, or whatever time of day that you're listening to this. It's Caro, as usual, and welcome back to the 18th episode of C Squared.
It's C Squared number 18, that's right.
Amazing. Thank you for listening to us for the past 17 or so episodes.
Maybe this is their first ever podcast. Maybe this is the first time they're ever watching.
I'm so sorry if this is your only podcast.
They've been waiting for me to make a video for a long time, and it's just like, what's taking them so long? C Squared, I guess I'll watch that. Whatever. God, where's Mortal Kombat? I want my Mortal Kombat!
Yes, we'll get into that pretty soon, but we've done a lot of traveling, and as someone who definitely travels more between the two of us, I'm wiped out from traveling, even though I'm going on another trip next month because I'm going to Peru for the first time in 20 years.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I have not been to Peru since, 2002. So, not to get too personal on the podcast, but my grandmother has been dealing with some health issues. She had a really, really bad scare back in January. And it got to the point where we thought we were going to lose her, but she's doing okay. She's fine. She's much better now. And I figured that, between certain life obligations coming up and just me almost being 30, I figured now was pretty much the right time to find time to go back to Peru. So I'll be visiting family for a week. I'm excited. I'm also a little nervous given, the language barrier, because despite being Spanish, I do not speak much Spanish, due to a speech disorder I had when I was younger. So, yeah, I'm excited. It'll be good. It'll be really good.
Yeah, you can always just hang on to your mom and let her do all the work.
Well, I also plan on, using Google Translate. I can speak limited Spanish, but I just can't, I don't know, put it in full sentences.
I am so technologically illiterate that, if I ever get stranded in, a country that I don't know the language of, I would just be absolutely screwed.
Oh, no.
I would just die right then and there. That'd be the week I died because I just wouldn't be able to sustain any kind of conversation, or I wouldn't be able to understand anyone. I'd just be going, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what's happening. Oh, God, I'm gonna fucking die.
I feel like you wouldn't have, that much of an issue if it's, a global city, I don't know, Paris or Tokyo or whatever, a large, large city. I'm sure in Lima, where I'm going, there's gonna be, a lot of English gringo stuff there. But, I understand having that language fear.
It's I do want to visit Japan at some point, but I do wonder, how much am I going to get away with just speaking English, really?
If you stay in the major cities, you can get away with it. Because, at least when I was there last time, whenever I rode the train, they did the train announcements in Japanese and then in English.
Oh, yeah?
So, you'll know where to get off and stuff. And a lot of print in, major cities in Japan are in English anyway, but it's when you go out to the countryside and the rural areas where that definitely gets more complicated. You're Canadian, you probably learned French in school. Just continue learning that.
Yeah, I did learn French in school, and then guess what? In high school, I got it early in grade 9, the credit for French, and then I just immediately forgot it after 2 years.
Dang.
It's I passed French. And then 2 years later, I knew I was never going to speak it again because the town I live in is predominantly English speaking. And I just went in one ear and then out the other. Just gone.
Dang.
So yeah, I'm proud of that.
As a linguist who went to school specifically for this, judging you pretty harshly right now.
Oh, God.
You may not see it through this camera, but I am giving you an eye of judgment. Just a stare.
So anywho, I can think of a good segue, because when I should have been working on Mortal Kombat, I was in Philadelphia for the late March, early April time period.
Yes.
And I crossed off something on my bucket list.
Eating a Philly cheesesteak from a cheesesteak shop that isn't Pat's or Gino's.
No.
Going up the Rocky Steps.
No, I did that a year ago.
Destroying the Liberty Bell.
I think I would be pretty infamous if I destroyed the Liberty Bell. I think I'd be in the news.
Yeah, you're not in the news.
I would get canceled so hard. Of course, a Canadian would destroy the Liberty Bell. That's it. We're going to war with Canada. No, Caro, I did something I've never done before, which was I went and I saw WrestleMania.
You probably saw it with someone real special too, huh?
You know, maybe my favorite co-host. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe the co-host that, like, was panicking about tickets and even the idea of even making it, but then finding some seats at, like, the last minute, kind of, and then finally taking the plunge and then going to Mania. But yes, we did it. We went to WrestleMania. It was absolutely awesome. It's the best WWE event I have ever been to.
Goddamn.
And I've been to a lot of them. I've been to a lot of WWE shows. This was definitely, like, my favorite one that I've ever been to. My favorite WWE show in years. I might be stretching it a bit by saying in a decade, but, like, oh, it was so good. It was amazing. That whole weekend was amazing.
I mean, it was a special occasion. It was WrestleMania 40. And, you know, whenever they get, like, an even-numbered year like that, it's usually going to deliver. It's usually going to have one awesome, happy ending. It's usually going to give you all the pizzazz, all the spectacle that you want to see. Your eardrums are going to get blown out by all the fireworks, you know.
Which we were right next to. We were right next to all the fireworks.
We got to see The Rock. We got to see The Undertaker. We got to see John Cena.
We got to see Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, we got to see Snoop Dogg.
And we got to see my favorite tribal chief, Roman Reigns, who has not been on TV since April, so whatever he's doing, he's probably doing well.
Yeah, I want to apologize for the lateness of this podcast.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about WrestleMania after Backlash has happened, and they're already building up to the next PLE. I'm still getting used to that, because I've been so conditioned to say pay-per-view, but the next
it's okay.
PLE...
I still use both. I use them interchangeably. If I'm talking about WWE, I'll use both interchangeably, even though I know it's supposed to be PLE, but yeah.
I have major executive dysfunction. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
We're
also talking to someone who has major executive dysfunction. That makes two of us.
The only two topics we have today are WrestleMania and Knuckles. And I said, like, with C Squared, I wanted to make shorter episodes. I wanted to make episodes with very few topics sometimes, because sometimes we don't have a lot to talk about, you know?
No.
The thing is, Knuckles came out in April after WrestleMania, and we probably could have did C Squared all the way back then, but we were waiting for, like, maybe another topic of something to talk about or something. I was hoping I was going to finish Mortal Kombat earlier so I could play Persona 3 Reload, but maybe we're going to have to save that conversation for a future episode. But
yeah. And, like, I'm in the middle of Persona 3 Reload, and eventually when we touch on that in the podcast, like, TLDR, it's amazing. But I want to talk about that with Clement, my wonderful co-host. And I just don't want to be the only one laughing about how amazing Persona 3 Reload is, because it is amazing. And I will have a lot to comment about that. Definitely maybe the next podcast episode, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
The point is, we're slow, and that's fine. Also, talking in regards to one of our earlier C Squared podcasts, the last time we talked about wrestling was about how the main event was seemingly not going to go the way we thought it was.
Yep.
We were outraged. We were so mad.
And the outrage, again, was a given, because normally with me, and I said this before when we last talked about it, a lot of wrestling fans love to complain for the sake of complaining. And, like, 99% of the time they complain, it's for really small things that I don't think are, like, significant in the long run. But this is, like, the thing with Cody Rhodes and him potentially having his main event pushed to the side was that really rare case where I'm like, no, you've built this up for a long time and you've woven in hints in your TV shows that suggested that Roman and Cody is the endgame for Mania 40. Why are you pivoting now and blindsiding a lot of your fans that specifically bought tickets to your pay-per-view event in Philly to watch this rematch happen? So that was the sentiment in February. And if you don't follow wrestling, not only because they pushed back to Cody and gave him his main event back, like, not only has the product exploded into, like, this wild, positive, like, reception creatively, but The Rock fucking turned around significantly. Like, this is probably the best thing. And no one expected it, but this is probably the best thing that's ever happened to his character, because his heel or bad guy character that he has now is probably the best character work I have ever seen from The Rock in WWE, and that's saying a lot. I have really enjoyed his Final Boss character. It's amazing. Like, no one would have called that The Rock would be the best part of the WrestleMania build, but he was.
The Final Boss!
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, going back to what you said earlier, though, before we get into all of that, like, yeah, WWE has turned it around so fucking hard.
Yep.
Holy cow, the product is so much better than it was back like in 2019, 2018. It is crazy.
We are finally out of the dark ages of creative.
Vince McMahon's gone. Kevin Dunn is gone.
Who knew getting rid of those two would be the solution?
Like, as soon as Kevin Dunn is the guy who's always in charge of, like, the camera cuts, the editing. He's always dictating how the shows are shot on TV, right? And he was doing the show for a long, 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 long time. And now he's gone. He's not part of WWE anymore. And then all of a sudden, after he left, they just had some of the more creative entrances, some of the more creative transitions that, like, wrestling has been craving, that wrestling has needed for a very, very long time.
It's amazing because, like, if you're into wrestling, and if you've heard of New Japan Pro Wrestling, it's a Japanese promotion that is basically, like, in terms of popularity and mainstreamness, it's like their version of WWE. So you're going to see a lot of Japanese or Japan's biggest wrestling stars on New Japan. And they were already doing, like, a lot of the cinematography and a lot of the camera work that was really creative. Like, you'd have these one shots on athletic action going on in the ring. You would have, like, creative camera framing between characters to show, like, dynamics. And New Japan was already doing that. So the fact that, like, we're now seeing this experimentation in WWE, but also, like, seeing those camera shots that are reminiscent of what New Japan has been doing is amazing, because that's exposing more people to, like, oh, well, wrestling can be more cinematic, and it's, you know, it's great. It's awesome. It's good stuff.
Like, the last thing Rhea Ripley did before she got injured, it was when she got injured.
Yes.
Because Liv Morgan throws a fucking chair at her head.
Yeah.
Which came the fuck out of nowhere, and that was crazy. But my favorite thing about that is that after the referees break Liv and Rhea up, and Dominic Mysterio is checking up on Rhea, he goes and looks at the cameraman who is right in their face, right in their grill, and he pushes the camera aside and says, "Get out of here." And the cameraman, he keeps walking. He keeps walking to the ring. And he's in, like, a side entrance. So, like, he just got pushed away from Dominic, and then he just keeps walking to the ring until we eventually catch up with the next match that's going on. And it was the coolest fucking transition I've ever seen in my 20, 30 years of watching wrestling.
One of my favorite camera shots that they did recently was Jey Uso, who is, like, one of the most popular wrestlers right now. He's a good guy. Like, he was transitioning, like, out of the ring. I think he just had a match, and he was, like, walking out of the arena. Remind you again, this is, like, one shot, like, the camera's still on him. So he's walking out of the arena. He's walking through, like, the concession area and the lobby area, and then he walks outside to meet up with his friend Sami Zayn, who's another good guy. And they have, like, a conversation. They're talking. The camera's still aiming at those two, and Sami Zayn is in the main event. So then after they start talking and hyping each other up, the camera follows Sammy as he is returning to the arena, and he's like, this is Montreal, this is the best wrestling city ever, da, da, da. And you see Sammy, like, walk to the arena, and again, camera still following him, and you see all these fans come up to him and hype him up, and it's amazing. And it's so, like, rabid. You see all these people, like, rally behind Sammy, and then Sammy finally re-enters the, stands in the arena. And that was wild. That was, like, maybe, like, 2 minutes of straight camera work without even pivoting to, like, the next shot or another camera. Like, they've been doing stuff like that recently. And I love it. I love to see it.
It's cinema.
Yes, it literally is cinema.
The build up to WrestleMania was really fantastic. Like, we were watching Raw maybe 2 weeks before WrestleMania, and there's this amazing promo where The Rock just brutalizes Cody Rhodes, just brutalizes him like he owes him money. And he takes him outside of the arena, and it just so coincidentally happens to be raining, which is like the most perfect Mother Nature. Couldn't have asked for better conditions in your life to enhance the scene of Cody getting his ass kicked by The Rock.
I know. I love it when stuff like that aligns perfectly.
Everything was just super hype, and the wrestlers are all super engaging. Like, Drew McIntyre is the hottest he's ever been right now. Like,
oh, yeah.
His social media
amazing.
game is crazy. The guy is, like, so sharp, and his promos have always been so goddamn cutting lately. It's incredible.
Yeah.
People like Jey Uso, I mean, their entrance, you just see him doing the yeet thing, and everyone lifting their arms back and forth. It's just like, there's a popularity, and also the shows have all been selling out. They've all been, like, completely sold out week after week after week, to the point that they had to advertise that, because it was just like, look at our winning streak here. Look how popular wrestling has become this year. Like, holy shit.
Like, to give you an idea of how popular wrestling has gotten, like, I'm in a group chat with college friends that I still talk to, like, even though we graduated like 6 or 7 years ago. And, like, nowadays, a lot of them are in graduate school, and they're pursuing PhDs, or they're, like, doing a lot of research work. So they don't necessarily, like, have the, like, attention span to pay attention to wrestling, even though I brought it up, like, in college. But even they were asking me, like, yo, who's this Cody Rhodes guy? This guy sounds really cool. Like, has he finished the story yet? And I'm like, whoa, okay. I didn't expect y'all to talk about wrestling with me, okay. But even, like, the fact that even they've, like, heard about Cody in the story and WWE is, I think it just shows how much the product has improved so much over the last year or so. Like, it was starting to get good, like, even when Triple H took over. Like, it wasn't perfect, and it still isn't perfect now. But especially the last 6 or 7 months, it's really skyrocketed creatively.
Yeah, it actually encouraged me to pick up the WWE 2K game.
Dang.
Like, I'm in such a wrestling mood. I'm such a wrestling high right now. I decided to get the newest game. And, you know, we didn't just see WrestleMania. We had this whole wrestling weekend coming up to it. You know, we went to the WWE World event, which is like their E3. What do you call their Comic-Con? What do we call it?
Their fan convention. It's a fan convention.
Yeah, their fan convention. Whatever. So we got to take a lot of pictures of, like, the Firefly Funhouse set and the championship belts and Eddie Guerrero's car and the crazy ass Terminator Triple H outfit.
The In Your House house.
Oh yeah, we were at the In Your House house. That was fun.
Which isn't exactly the In Your House house, but it is a model of the In Your House house.
At least we were at a replication of the In Your House house.
Yes, house.
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 We're doing this again.
You always be
Good
wrong
God.
in my eyes.
In your house.
In your house.
And we got a little beef with The Rock when we were at that event.
Oh, yeah. So, The Rock was supposed to show up at, like, 4 o'clock. We went specifically, I don't know if any listeners also went to like, WWE World or WrestleMania weekend, but we went the Thursday of, Mania, and The Rock was supposed to show up at 4 p.m. for like, I don't know, probably just to talk shit about Cody, and to just say hello to the crowd. And like, the WWE World segments and appearances by stars were separated into like 15 to 20 minute bits. So The Rock probably was going to appear for that amount of time. So normally, okay, we'll show up to the main stage at 4. We'll see The Rock. We'll boo him. And then we'll just go get dinner somewhere. So then we get there. And it's like 4:15. I'm like, okay, maybe they're running a little late. Then it gets closer to 4:30 and we're all like, is Rock gonna show up? And like people were getting like pretty antsy at this point because like you definitely remember this, Clement, but they were playing the promos for all the matches, and every time the audio blacked out and the video stopped playing, people assumed, okay, we're gonna transition into The Rock now. But then every time they did that, the film restarted with a new promo and everyone booed.
And we would just like rewatch the same promos over and over and over again.
And the boos just got worse as the time went on.
Like the audible groans when we would just see the promo start up again. Like, oh God, it's the Seth and fucking Drew segment again. Jesus. If they show The Rock, because like, oh man, they're hyping up, The Rock's coming out. No, they're just hyping up the fucking Bloodline match. They're just hyping up the tag match. God damn it.
Yeah, so like most of the convention is probably surrounding the main stage area at this point. Cause like, people had like an audience, obviously, through, the previous Superstar appearances, but this is The Rock, so everyone's gonna show up because it's The Rock. So most of the convention is like surrounding the main stage at this point. And people were leaving like after the 45-minute mark. And we left like, did we leave like a little bit after 5? We waited for like a little more than an hour, I think. Yeah,
we waited for like 45 minutes or something. Like, at some point I just said like, look, if he doesn't show up at 5 o'clock, we're done. I think we left maybe at 4:55, but like we waited and we waited and we waited and we saw so many people get tired and leave before us. And then we found out after the fact that when we left, he didn't show up for another like 45 minutes.
No, because like, okay, so we went to Nigel McGuinness's magic show. Nigel McGuinness is a commentator on AEW, and he has his own magic show, which we went to that and it was amazing. But that started at 7:30. So obviously we were already on a time crunch. We wanted to eat dinner beforehand before going to the show. So we were like, we got to get out of here, like, you know, at some point, because we got to eat dinner. We got to go to the show. We can't wait like 2 or 3 hours for The Rock to show up. And yeah, The Rock didn't show up till like closer to 6. He made that crowd wait for 2 hours.
Good God. And then, ironically, I would hear stories about how, like, apparently The Rock is really late and really not taking his Hollywood gig all that seriously either. And it's just like, well, yeah, I would know. He didn't show up to that fucking fan convention.
Yeah. I read that headline a couple weeks ago on Twitter, and I just thought back to WWE World. I'm like, of course, this doesn't surprise me at all. He did it to me too.
Rock, what are you doing? Get off YouTube, buddy.
Gosh.
But this led to a great thing because the following day we went to WrestleCon, which was not a WWE specific event, but it was definitely a fan convention for all kinds of wrestlers from all kinds of different promotions, whether it's AEW, ECW, WCW, you name it. So many people, so many wrestlers all packed into one room. It's amazing how I could just like look to my left and there's Powerhouse Hobbs. Look to my right, it's the fucking Iconics. There's just so many goddamn wrestlers every 5 inches that like you're accidentally bumping into them and stuff.
Yeah, it was wild because like they put Kurt Angle's table and Dustin Rhodes' table next to each other, and we wanted to meet Kurt. So for a while we were trying to figure out where the line was because it looked like the lines were melding like into each other. And they're both 2 really popular wrestlers, so obviously there's going to be a long line. And I was like, oh gosh, what's the Kurt line? So we had to ask like several people before finding the endpoint of the Kurt line. And then we didn't wait like for more than 20 minutes. Like was fine after that. But the point is that it's all condensed into one, like, ballroom. So it definitely does get cramped in there.
But there's lots of merchandise as well.
Yeah.
And we happened to find a guy selling some shirts in many different sizes, one of which was Rocky Sucks. And because we were so burned from the WWE World absence, the fact that he didn't show up, we were like, oh, we got a beef with The Rock. And I saw that shirt and I just looked at it and I went, you know what? I got to get that. I got to buy that shirt. I think originally the plan was I was going to wear it at WrestleMania, but I eventually decided against it.
No. We were gonna wear it to SmackDown that night, but because The Rock was doing a Hall of Fame induction, we decided against it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the Hall of Fame, it's like the one night a year where you just drop the kayfabe, drop the storylines, honor the people that are being inducted. And I'm like, okay, The Rock's inducting a family member to the Hall of Fame. We can let's just wear it like a different night. You know.
I'm mad at The Rock. I'm not mad at Dwayne Johnson. Come on.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, WrestleCon was fun. We got to see Kurt Angle. That was good stuff. And
I got to meet Kelly, who is absolutely the sweetest. I love her so much. She's like, I think she gets a lot of flack because, like, she doesn't necessarily have the typical wrestling training compared to a lot of other wrestlers that you see now. But I always thought her athleticism was, like, cool, and she was very, like, flexible in the ring. So she ended up being one of my favorites, like, growing up as a kid. So I got to meet her, and I, you know, told her that she's really underrated in women's wrestling, and I really loved her infamous defense of the World Heavyweight Championship on SmackDown with Edge, because she did that. I think she's, like, the only woman that's, like, defended the World Heavyweight Championship, technically, but, but I told her that, and she was, like, the sweetest.
I'm unaware of this match. I think I tuned out of wrestling during that time period.
This was PG era. You would not have watched it then.
Yeah.
It was like 2010, 2011.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't watching that. We went and saw the Hall of Fame, and I saw the greatest Hall of Fame speech ever in person, and I was so thankful that I got to see Paul Heyman get inducted. And we went in there and we really thought he was going to be like the last person inducted.
Yeah.
And what happened was he was the first person inducted, which I think was both a good call based on the audience and based on the crowd reactions in that stadium. And also, God, they got to make the Hall of Fame thing the way it was in the mid 2000s. They got to make it just like a closed off thing for wrestlers to be in the audience. And just like, fucking leave the crowd out of it. Leave the fans out of it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Or at least offer like a VIP package exclusively to certain fans where they are like mandated to dress up for this. And only offer that to a limited amount of fans. If you really want fans to be a part of this experience. Because like we said earlier, the reason why we didn't want to like wear the Rock t-shirts to SmackDown was because it would lead into the Hall of Fame ceremony. And the Hall of Fame's the one night a year where, like, you drop the storylines and actually legitimately talk about your careers. Like, if you've seen enough of these, you notice that, the wrestlers just, like, mention real names, they mention their lives, they're like, no, this is real life now. Forget about the storylines, forget about this, we're just gonna break it for one night. So we didn't want to bring, like, our kayfabe dislike of The Rock into that, but unfortunately, some wrestling fans do not understand that the Hall of Fame is supposed to be, like, non-kayfabe, so they think it's absolutely okay to boo Roman Reigns while he's giving a speech about Paul Heyman.
I know.
No.
It's like, oh my god, fucking time and place, motherfuckers!
Mm-hmm.
It's just like they were constantly doing their own chants, and they were just constantly going like, we can't hear you, blah, 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 and, you know, which I understand. Mic issues can be awkward in some parts of the arena. I get it. But, my God, it's like when you're actually in the crowd and you're hearing the parts that the TV's not picking up, man, it's skin crawling that like you just wish people would shut the fuck up and just enjoy the show and watch the show, because I'm trying to listen to the speech. I can't hear what Roman's saying. But I think a lot of that was because of they wanted to see Paulie, and this is a Philadelphia crowd. And yes. So this is being an ECW type crowd, they were friggin' rowdy. They were very, very rowdy. And when Paul's speech finished, they all left. Like everybody left the arena, and it was so much more calm and so much more collected for like Bull Nakano.
Yeah. It was getting a little late because again, the Hall of Fame ceremonies are really long, and they end up being tacked onto the end of SmackDown these days. So if you're not a wrestling fan, SmackDown is a 2-hour show, starts at 8 o'clock, ends at 10 o'clock. But then you have a half-hour buffer for the wrestlers to get changed into a nice dress or a suit, and they have to like set up the seating arrangement. People have to go out, and they have to do red carpet, quote-unquote, interviews. So the Hall of Fame ceremony doesn't start till like 10:30. And because of the caliber of inductees that they usually have, it usually runs for about 2 hours. So your whole night, like if you're doing SmackDown and the ceremony, your whole night doesn't end till like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Which is a lot. And I don't live super close to the arenas, so I was like, okay, let's just watch Bull Nakano get into the Hall of Fame because I'm very interested in her, and then we'll head out for the night.
It was really the two Hall of Famers I wanted to watch, really.
Yeah, same here. And I'm like, okay, we'll just watch the rest when we get home. And then, like, we got home at around, like, 12:30, and it was still going on. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
We just left. Like, from the time we left the arena to the time we got back to my place, it was still going on Peacock. I had the stream on. So it's a long night.
And yeah, it's something I never thought about was, like, the Philly transit system. Because I was thinking, like, well, we'll stay maybe till 1 a.m, and then we'll just take a train back to home. And no, the trains don't operate after a certain point of the day. And it's just like, oh. The
Broad Street line closes at midnight.
Well, geez, WWE.
Well, geez, SEPTA. But yeah, Paul Heyman's speech was, again, the best Hall of Fame speech I've ever heard. Like, yeah. I liked it a lot because, like, he spent the first part of his speech just thanking his kids and thanking, like, relatives and stuff. He got, like, that stuff out of the way, like the sentimental stuff. And he was like, okay, I know what y'all came here to see me do. I'll bring out the poly stuff. And the rest of his speech was him embodying a lot of his ECW persona. And that was, like, amazing. My gosh.
It's so strange because, like, you keep seeing him as the wise man, like Roman Reigns' manager, Brock Lesnar's manager. He's just this guy in a big business suit. He's the wise man. He's very, he's just a very wise man. And you forget about what he was like in the early 2000s and what he was like in the 90s when he was the head of Extreme and he was Paulie Dangerously. And he was just this eccentric, flamboyant, radical guy who had a backwards cap and he was always mouthing off and shooting and just going off about all these different things. And you forget how funny Paul Heyman is. Like, oh my God, Paul's hilarious.
You forget how funny Paul Heyman is, and you forget how much of a, like, very brilliant mind he has in terms of wrestling.
Yeah.
Because, like, I've been going back and watching ECW with a couple of wrestling friends of mine online, and, like, we've all collectively, like, confirmed that if Paul Heyman, and I don't know if you agree with me, but if Paul Heyman had the amount of wealth and money that Tony Khan has presently and turned ECW into this big promotion, I think WWE would not survive past 96. I think it's It's done. Like, Paulie with Tony Khan money, yeah. WWE's
That would have been amazing. That would have been incredible. Absolutely.
No Attitude Era.
But,
we do get an Attitude Era, but it'd probably be under ECW, but I digress.
But also, what I liked about the speech was just like, from his body of work, and because he was a manager in WCW, and he was like in ECW, and he was a color commentator on WWE, and general manager on screen, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that he knows the business inside and out because he's been with it since the 80s. and the way he would like navigate his way into the business, the way he actually got into it is like so inspirational, but also kind of like, yeah, that sounds like something I would do.
Yeah.
You just know he loves fucking wrestling, you know, like this, he just absolutely loved wrestling, and he always wanted to make wrestling better in any way that he could. And he respects talent, and he respects the art and the vision of what wrestling is. And, you know, also just the fact that he was talking to his kids about how, like, you know, as long as you work hard and as long as you're nice to people, you can have this. You can have a Hall of Fame induction speech, you know? Like, Paul never thought this would ever happen to him.
I have paid my transgressions for bouncing those checks of talent. Tommy Dreamer does not want to murder me anymore.
Yeah, Tommy didn't kill him. That's great.
Yeah, Tommy didn't kill him.
Although I loved some troll online saying, "Come on, Tommy, finish the story."
I guess that beef is squashed.
Well, that's good.
That's fine. That's good. It's okay.
So the Hall of Fame was amazing, but then we got to night one, which was a very perilous time for the two of us.
Yeah. I'm at the very least, prefacing this, at least I will give night one this. I'm glad it was the weaker night of the two because of the ordeal that we went through, because if it was the other way around, I'd be very saddened. But night one, it was a fine night. It wasn't as strong as night two, but night one still had its moments. Do you want to start us off? Or do you want me to start off?
I can start us off.
Okay.
So, full disclosure, we saw WrestleMania night one at our YouTube friend, Some Call Me Johnny's.
Mm-hmm.
It was, we went to see the wrestling event with him and Elliot and Nora, and, you know, it was a fun time. Or at least it was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be.
But before we went, we stopped by a coffee shop. What was the name of the coffee shop?
Federal Donuts.
Federal Donuts.
But to be clear, we did stop by this coffee shop the week before. It was a different location, and it was fine.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fine. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was the Vietnamese coffee or if it was the London Fog donut. I don't know which one it was.
Mm-hmm.
But we both had it. We both shared the same meal. And then, as we're going to John's and we're on the subway, I start feeling really bad. And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm thinking it's because I haven't eaten in a while. I'm thinking it's because I've always been bad with motion sickness. Like, I'm terrible on a roller coaster and whatnot.
And
so
it was pretty packed for a Saturday too. Like,
yeah, I couldn't get a seat.
Being a Philly resident, it usually is never that packed on Saturday. I don't know what was going on.
It was WrestleMania weekend. That's what's going on.
Well, it was WrestleMania weekend, but most of the people on the train wouldn't be taking our particular line if they were going to WrestleMania, which made this really odd. Mm-hmm.
That's true. But, you know, I couldn't get a seat, so I was hanging onto the bars for dear life. It was packed, and the rocking of the subway was just making me feel I didn't feel great. I didn't feel good. So, like, I started feeling nauseous before we actually got off the train. And then I sat on the bench for a bit, and I figured, well, you know what? I've had like a 5-minute, 10-minute rest at the bench. I'm sure I'm going to be fine. So then we get on the bus. And I just feel weird in my stomach. I feel weird in my chest. I feel something's building up, and luckily I had a bag at the time, and I just right into the bag. I threw up on the bus ride to John's on WrestleMania night one.
Yep.
And the whole time I'm just kind of worried that, because I don't think you're sick. I don't even know you're sick at all.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh God, like, I'm so sorry. I just threw up right next to you. You've never seen this before. Oh, Jesus. Oh man, that's embarrassing.
So I had to like pull the stop thing, and then we got off the bus. And so like we sat out. I made sure he was fine. We walked across the street to a Wawa to get water. And then when he was comfortable and ready to do so, we called an Uber to John's place.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on the Uber ride there, I started getting sick. Yeah. So then it started hitting me. And I think I had it worse because I ate more than you did. And I also had like a breakfast sandwich too. And I'm not sure like how fully cooked the breakfast sandwich was. I guess it was fine when I ate it, but I don't know. Like, I started feeling like nauseous. I couldn't breathe. Though mine was like was definitely much scarier because I legitimately thought that I was having like a heart attack of sorts. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought you were having a panic attack or something.
Yeah. So like we got there. I had to like sit outside for a good while. We missed the opening of Mania Night 1. We missed most of the Becky Rhea match. It was really bad. It was really, really bad.
We were just too busy like spending time in the bathroom and just trying to like breathe and collect our bearings. And I felt so bad because it's like, how often do I get to see John? How often do I get to go to his house and just hang out and chill? And of all the days that we get friggin' food poisoning, it had to be this one. God.
Yeah.
I mean, it eventually calmed down and we did see like the last 3 or 4 matches together, but man, those first
really
2 or 3 matches, we were just like doing our own thing for a bit. We would take breaks and go outside and just like, you know, just sit at the entrance of his house and just like, oh God.
I legitimately thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
Like, I legitimately thought because of the way I was breathing, I was like, for a moment I was like, I don't know, I think you need to call a hospital. I don't know if I can do this. That freaked me out. And I think me being freaked out about me being freaked out made things even worse.
Yeah.
So, like, luckily, I don't know, the human body is weird. And, like, I ended up being fine by the end of the night. Like, we ended up watching the main event with everyone. And that was the best match of the night. I'm glad we at least had that moment with everyone to just watch the match.
It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It went exactly like I thought it was going to go.
Yes. Which I'm really happy about that. On the Uber ride back, I was still kind of having minor breathing issues. It all got better by the time I woke up the next day. But what made things even worse was on the Uber ride home. I was not watching Collision at all. AEW Collision specifically. And on the Uber ride home, I'm scrolling through my social media. And, like, I see people talking about how on the next week of AEW Dynamite, they're going to roll the all-out footage. The CM Punk brawl backstage. And that made me feel even worse. I got even more queasy.
Oh, Tony Khan, like, Tony Khan.
We have not, I said it on the podcast. It's great that CM Punk is gone from AEW. I even said that if he was happy enough to go back to wrestling, he could do that. Just get some space out. He's doing much better now.
Yeah, no backstage brawls in WWE so far.
No. Like, despite how critical I was of Punk in that situation, like, at the end of it all, I just wanted him to have a happier state of mind, which, you know, he's getting a WWE right now. I've not heard anything bad about him. But just reading that on the way home when I'm already just kind of like dying of food poisoning, I'm like, no, I need to lay down. This is too much.
Tony, you're killing me.
Yeah. And so I thought we weren't going to go to night 2, which I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel in the morning. Maybe I just need to sleep, you know, all that stuff.
But luckily, we turned out all right for night 2.
Yes.
It was the Lincoln Center, I think?
Lincoln Financial Field.
Lincoln Financial Field. And even though it was April in America, it was very, very chilly. It was very, very cold that night.
It was chilly, but I was told by my friend who attended night 1 that the first night was even worse. So we got the best weather out of the 2 nights.
Even still, it's like at some point we had to start putting on those winter jackets, and we had definitely had like the opening because like we were right next to the entrance, right where the pyro is, And we could see all like the, because like Seth Rollins had like this crazy, amazing entrance with all these different like dancers and musicians all in these get-ups and costumes. And we actually got to see them enter the stage before Seth Rollins actually walked out on to the ring.
Yeah.
So we had a pretty interesting view where we could see the ring perfectly fine, but we could also see things going on behind the stage. But there was an opening because of how the stadium was set up, and the wind was especially blowing in our direction.
Oh yeah.
So at some point I did need to like put the winter jacket on, which I had brought, and it was a tad nippy. It was a tad nippy.
Just a tad nippy. Just a tad.
Just a tad.
Yeah.
La-ta-ta-tee-ta-ta. It's my favorite thing to do when I'm cold, as I always go, la-ta-ta-tee-ta-ta.
You're getting some Clement lore here, y'all. But yeah, WrestleMania Night 2, the opening was amazing. It was Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. And like, Drew won the match. And he had the title for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then Damian Priest cashed in his Money in the Bank, which is something I was hoping he would do. I was really hoping that Mania would open like that, and it did, and it was amazing.
It was everything we wanted.
It's like, what a way to start off Night 2. That's how you do it. Start off with a shock like that.
It was crazy just how packed that place was, because again, it's WrestleMania. I mean, of course it was packed. There's just people everywhere, and you know, you got The Weeknd playing in the background, and we're having a nice little snuggle while eating popcorn, and you know, it was just very cozy.
Yeah. I
had a great time. I liked the matches that were showcased. You know, I liked the tag team tables match that was going on between Bobby Lashley's crew and the other guys. I never know their name. I'm sorry.
Is
it like Agents of Pain? Group. Agents of Pain or something? What is it?
I just call it Karrion Kross's group.
Okay, so you don't know either.
No. Not on the top of my head, at least.
Good to know. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. That was a lot of fun. Bayley versus Io Sky was pretty good.
The United States Triple Threat was a lot of fun. It was funny, too, because Logan Paul is currently the United States champion, and one of WWE's sponsors right now is the Prime energy drink. So it was so funny during the match because people were chanting for different beverages aside from Prime. So they were chanting like, I heard Gatorade, Powerade, we want water. Yeah.
The timing on that, it's like, you know, in my small town, I've always been going to the convenience store. I've always been seeing all the sodas and stuff, and I never saw Prime. I didn't notice a Prime. And then WrestleMania happens, and now Prime is just fucking everywhere. Every time I go to the convenience store, there's Prime everywhere.
Oh, Prime is in your grocery store now?
Oh, yeah.
We should taste test it.
Oh, boy. How many flavors are there?
It's probably better. I don't know, but it's probably better than the Woo energy drink.
And yes, we said Logan Paul, the YouTuber.
Yes.
He's a wrestler now. He's currently the United States champion. And whatever you think of the guy, he's actually good at wrestling.
He's really good.
He's actually really good at this. Oh my God, he's a good heel. He does some pretty cool athletic spots. He's got like good friggin' chemistry with all the wrestlers. It's weird.
I think it helps Logan Paul too, because like when celebrities do like WWE spots in the past, there's always, and understandably so, I get it, there's this pushback on the mainstream. It's like, no, wrestling's our thing. We don't want mainstream people here, you know, because you don't actually like wrestling. You just want to advertise your product and then get out because you don't actually care about the craft that goes into it.
Yeah, Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, Jeremy Piven.
I'll see you at the Summerfest.
But I think in Logan Paul's case, because a lot of what he's done online has been met with vitriol, like there's this disdain for Logan Paul and the Paul brother, you know, brand in general. And because he's just so used to getting that sort of hate online every day, I think that's kind of helped him fortify a lot of his heel work, because people could just boo him on ringside and Logan's like, yeah, whatever, you're nothing, whatever, I'm gonna just be a heel. This does not personally offend me, it's just business.
And, I'll give credit where credit's due. I have seen a few interviews where he talks about, like, because he had that whole Suicide Forest snafu, and he got a lot of blowback for that. And he's definitely talked about how, like, he was a lot dumber back then, and he's definitely wised up to a lot of things since then. So I don't know, maybe he's not that bad of a guy. Maybe he was just had a really stupid moment when he was in Japan. Oh, it was stupid. Oh, it was really fucking stupid. But
an entire trip. Ooh.
But, he seems pretty chill, pretty cool.
Jake Paul is the worst of the two brothers. I'm not a Jake Paul fan. I'm looking forward to the fight he's having with Mike Tyson this summer.
Yeah.
All this is to say is that, at least in WWE, Logan Paul is very above average compared to a lot of celebrities that they get. And he entertained in this match. Yeah. He knows how to be a heel.
I love how the match starts and Randy and Kevin are not even, like, taking it as a triple threat. They're just making it a handicap match and just, like, beating the dog shit out of him. And then at some point they both try to pin him, and then it's like, oh, right, we have to fight each other.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. And then the main event. Oh, the main event. It's my favorite match of the year so far.
It had all the drama you could want.
Remember when we were sitting on your couch last year saying that Cody was gonna win, and then he lost to Roman, and we were just so quiet for several minutes after Mania ended?
He didn't finish the story.
No. We were dumbfounded. We were like, how could they let Roman win? What? This is ridiculous.
But it was worth it for this.
It was worth it for this because Cody finished the story finally. And there were cheers and hugs and laughter and tears. It's funny because when we walked to the link, there were people standing outside of the stadium with tissue boxes. They're saying, free tissues for when Cody finishes the story. Get your tissues here. Come get them.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
I genuinely had a big hearty laugh when Cody Rhodes brought out a table, and then Roman Reigns picked up the table, and you think he's going to set it up or something, right? And no, he slides it back under the ring.
And I think that shows how much his character work has improved over the last 5 years, because I think the Tribal Chief character has brought a lot of that confidence in him out in terms of how he can work the crowd.
Because he's a fucking star now.
Oh, yeah. Like, 4 or 5 years ago, he was, like, this forced-faced character, and, like, you can tell he's trying so hard to interact with the crowd and trying to get them on their side, but they're not, like, buying it. But through the Tribal Chief character, he's really improved on that. He's comfortable with getting booed. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, he's very comfortable in getting booed in his role. So when he comes back as a face, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does that now.
He's also just like a genuinely entertaining guy now. Because like one of my favorite promos from like April was he was making fun of Seth Rollins for suggesting that his title was like the people's title because he's the workhorse and that title's way more important. Mm-hmm. And he starts going like, so I gotta talk about my brother Seth Rollins. Crowd doesn't react to that, and he goes, exactly, no pop. I died laughing. Exactly, no pop.
Exactly, no pop. The way that Roman looks at the camera sometimes when he's doing promos, I'm like, yeah, I can tell you're so comfortable with this now.
He's genuinely like super entertaining, and it's like, yeah, when he left after WrestleMania, I do feel like something's missing. I want him back. I'm like, oh my god. I would never have thought I'd say this back in like 2015, 2016, is that I miss Roman Reigns and I want him back on TV.
Well, people are chanting for Roman Reigns every week because if you watch SmackDown, they're always "We want Roman" chants.
I know, right?
And I'm like, y'all, he's deserved his rest. He's been champion for 4 years. He could take off for a year for all I care, you know?
Oh, just, yeah, it was great stuff. It was lots of thrills and lots of cameos, and I'm pretty sure it was confirmed that, like, it was supposed to be Stone Cold Steve Austin at the end.
Yes. It was supposed to be Stone Cold instead of The Undertaker, but I guess they disagreed on, like, I don't know, some sort of creative or appearance fee or something like that.
Jeez. But, you know, still, I got to see the dong. I still got to see the lights go out and Undertaker show up, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Like, a lot of people equal this to, like, WWE's own version of, like, Endgame, because Roman Reigns has definitely been the Thanos of the WWE for the past few years now. So having people come back like John Cena and Jey Uso and The Undertaker and Seth Rollins come out and, like, try to destroy Roman is very MCU-esque. And that's one thing I loved about it. Because, like, I mentioned this before, but overbooking, which means that overbooking means, like, you're throwing lots of wrestlers and lots of, like, plot elements at the same time into a match, which can get really overwhelming. This match with Cody and Roman was one of the exceptions where I'm like, no, overbook this as much as you want. This is a 4-year build. Like, y'all can do whatever you want. It's a finale. Go crazy. Go nuts.
Yeah. No, it was absolutely amazing. It just had all those crazy finishers and all those hype reveals. Like, every time a song would play, we just go, wow! We just scream super, super loud. We were standing pretty much the last 15, 20 minutes of that match. We weren't even sitting down.
No, the audience was not sitting down for the last 20 minutes of that match. It was so good. And it's good, too, because, like, because a lot of people are like, well, the old match was really, really good because of the cameos. But, like, I feel like even before then, Cody and Roman proved that they could have a solid wrestling match even without, like, the embezzlement of, like, the stars at the end. Like, they were legitimately having a really good match even before Solo Sikoa, like, came in and kicked everything off.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was crazy. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, having Cody win and then his friggin' theme song's just so catchy and cool. Everyone, every time it, you know, gets to that part, whoa! We always do it.
Sonic Adventure 1's biggest fan, Cody Rhodes, is now the WWE champion. And it was a nice touch seeing, like, all the faces come out, too. Like, all the good guys come out and cheer for Cody at the end. I thought that was really cute. Like, yeah, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Randy Orton and LA Knight. And all these people that, like, were not only good guys, but they're also people that infamously took on Roman during his reign and lost. Like, it was just a really nice, like, coming to home moment.
Yeah.
We've come so far. I never thought I'd see the day where Cody was just unanimously cheered on. Oh my gosh.
Definitely a far cry from his AEW run.
Yes.
Good Lord.
I remember during his AEW one where I would tell you, you would never believe what Cody did this week.
But yeah, WrestleMania was freaking awesome. It was freaking fantastic.
And you know where WrestleMania is next year?
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yes, which you still need to go to.
Oh boy.
I don't know if I'll have money for Vegas Mania next year because of obligations and things coming up that are pretty important. Life stuff that I can't quite discuss yet. But it's cool that it's taking place in Mania. I'm sorry. It's cool that it's taking place in Vegas. You knew a lot there.
Absolutely. But yeah, we just wanted to gush about WrestleMania, even though, again, Backlash has come and gone and we're heading into the next PLE. But, you know, we wanted to gush about it because it was a fantastic trip. It was a fantastic event. And we had a hell of a weekend.
Also shouting out several people that I came across during Mania weekend. Shout out to my wrestling friend Frank, who is in our Discord server with a couple other wrestling fans of mine. We got to see him for like a couple of days. So it was just really nice catching up with him and seeing what he's up to. I do not know when the next AEW or WWE pay-per-view I'll go to is, but that's something we'll definitely do together with the group. And then I also met Haley of comicbook.net and Alex Queen of the Ring. So those are two women in the wrestling media space that I look up to and listen. And they do a lot of great things for wrestling media. So yeah, just wanted to shout that out. Good stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's really nice knowing that Cody Rhodes is the new face of WWE. He's definitely worked hard for it. And again, I've mentioned this before, but he's also a big gamer. He loves The Legend of Zelda. He has specifically said that he plays A Link to the Past once a year. And he's also a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan because he replied to me on Twitter once that SA1 was his favorite Sonic game. And Sonic the Hedgehog's really neat. And I agree with Cody. SA1's a classic. I prefer SA2 more. But SA1 is still a neat game. And I consider it one of my favorite pieces of Sonic media. It's definitely not one of the worst pieces of Sonic media.
You know who my favorite character in Sonic Adventure 1 is?
Who?
Pachacamac. I love that guy. I would love to see him come back. That'd be amazing.
I'd like to see him in like more of the Echidna lore fleshed out. Maybe in a mainstream movie franchise. Maybe it hits streaming. I don't know. Maybe we get a whole show based on Knuckles. Ever thought of that?
The Echidna?
Yeah, the Echidna.
No.
Yeah.
All right, no more pussyfooting around. We saw Knuckles.
Yes, we did.
We saw Knuckles the week it came out, and we've been waiting just until now to finally talk about it. Kara, was that the worst piece of Sonic media you've ever seen?
Hell no.
I agree. It wasn't
Hell
that bad.
to the no. Hell to the no. Spoiler, we both like Knuckles. Not like entirely love it, but like, we liked it enough. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's good.
I thought it was good. I don't think it was great. I don't love it. But I definitely laughed a lot when I watched it. And there's a lot of creative, wacky stuff that happens in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, I guess it's not 100% accurate to the Sonic lore from the video games, which is such a shock and surprise after Sonic 1. How is that possible?
And I want to get this out of the way. Because one of the biggest critiques of the show, if you've been online, is that, like, the show is called Knuckles, but Knuckles isn't in it as much as you would expect. And I understand that because, like, Knuckles has, like, his own character, and there's, like, a lore behind it. And, if I'm watching a show about Knuckles, I want to see Knuckles. So I understand that, like, point of critique.
Yeah.
But at least in my point of view, like, there's only so much you can do in the movie universe specifically of Sonic. So I guess for me going into the show, I never really expected a one-to-one retelling of like the entire lore that he has being brought into the movieverse. I don't know if you also had that same thought, but that's just where I was coming from. Like, it was nice seeing the hat cameo, the OVA hat. That was nice, but...
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cool callbacks in this, absolutely.
But I wasn't expecting like this whole, oh my god, this explosive Knuckles thing. I knew it had to be contained within the movie universe, so that was the expectation I had going in.
It's an appetizer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the appetizer for Sonic 3 later this year. It's not going to be the big, buffet. It's not the big showcase turkey. It's just an appetizer until we get the real deal. And also... there's a lot more screen time with Knuckles than the movies themselves.
Yeah.
Like 6 episodes that are 30 minutes long. This is longer than either Sonic 1 or Sonic 2. Maybe combined, both of them. So you got to imagine that if you're making that much footage and that much story, that the CG animation team can't have Knuckles be in every single scene because that would probably be a lot of work. And at that point, you may as well be making Sonic 3 the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's just the premise was always going to be a little unorthodox because it's a Knuckles show. And if you have a Knuckles show, you don't want Sonic and Tails to be major main characters in it because it's Knuckles' show. So what's Knuckles going to do in the human world, in the movie world, that Sonic and Tails are not a part of, that he's going to be doing for like 6 episodes or so? Okay, the plot is that he's decided... well, he didn't decide. He was told by Pachacamac, the old echidna from Sonic Adventure, who is not a warlord in this particular continuity, who's voiced by Christopher Lloyd. Which I wouldn't have called that.
Oh, yeah.
But Christopher Lloyd decides that he's been watching Wade Whipple, the Adam Pally sidekick character from the first two movies, the bumbling cop character, and he's like, he needs to be a warrior. He needs to have confidence. He needs to be a lot better than he is. Knuckles, you go teach him what it means to be a warrior. And then Knuckles goes, okay, and that's the plot of the show.
Yeah.
So they go on a road trip because Wade Whipple, and no bones about it, I'm not going to deny, Wade Whipple is the main character of this show. Yeah. He is. Mm-hmm. I know it's called Knuckles, but it's really Wade's vehicle. It's really Wade's story. Yeah. Knuckles just happens to be there most of the time.
Yeah. An analogy that I've given to people is that, like, some of your enjoyment of the show depends on whether you liked or didn't really care for the human characters in the Sonic universe. Like, I know there's a specific moment in Sonic 2 where, like, a lot of the focus of the movie shifts to, like, the human drama going on.
Yeah.
So, if you liked that, if you thought it was fine, you'll probably find enjoyment in the Knuckles series. If you didn't like that and thought it wasted time, probably not gonna
then don't watch the show. Absolutely, don't watch the show. Mm-hmm. And I agree, because, like, I remember we did the C-Squared podcast for Sonic 2, and I did like the human stuff. I was actually laughing because the groom had, like, these bro best men who were, like, bodybuilders, and they were, like, doing all these crazy squats and shit, and I was laughing at that. And then when the whole thing just goes upended and it's all revealed to be, like, a gun agent twist.
Yeah.
And then the bride just starts, like, driving a golf cart and going apeshit crazy, and, like, yeah, that's not Sonic humor. That's not Sonic material. Not really. But it was funny, and it was so off the wall and so bizarre that I actually really enjoyed it. Like, it was an element that I understood why people didn't like it, because it wasn't Sonic, but I thought it was really funny. And that's basically, I'm carrying that attitude and that mentality of, like, the wedding stuff to the Knuckles TV show. It's like, yeah, a lot of it isn't really Sonic-y, but it's really funny for what it is.
Yeah.
And Adam Pally is a really good comedian. I think he's got really good comic timing. I think he's got good presence on screen. Like, I want the director, Jeff Fowler, to, like, do an actual R-rated comedy with Adam Pally that has nothing to do with Sonic the Hedgehog. And I'm sure it's going to be fantastic, because I'm sure he can do it.
Like, take the wackiness of the Knuckles show and make it into an R-rated comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Wade for adults. And it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, the first episode was probably the best in terms of being closer to what the movies are, because that's the episode that Sonic and Tails are in. It's the episode where Maddie is there, and Knuckles definitely has probably the most screen time in that first episode, as we see him training in Green Hills and taking over the house and just being kind of a menace because, you know, he can't acclimate the way Sonic and Tails have.
No.
But again, a lot of great jokes out of that. Like, I like that he made the living room a friggin' gladiatorial pit arena where the dog tries to take out the mailman.
Yeah.
That's funny. I liked that. And even the action scene at the end, like, I enjoyed the fight between those gun agents in the bowling alley. I thought that was actually well choreographed, and it's not like Knuckles dominated the whole fight. Like, there was suspense. He does get captured at the end of that episode, and he didn't win that fight, technically.
Yeah. And, like, that first episode, like, even though there are Sonic characters in it, like, it really just sets up for the rest of the show. And I like that they did that in episode 1. I'd call it one of the strongest ones, you know?
Episode 2, I like that whole setup of, like, Wade going to save Knuckles, because he comes up with this imaginary scenario of how it's going to go in his head. Like, he's just going to be like this James Bond smooth operator who just kicks all the bad guys' asses and does all these crazy stuff. And then the play on that is that, like, everything goes wrong in, like, the first minute. He immediately draws attention to himself, making all these fireworks and stuff go off, and the gun agent's just like, what the hell?
I know.
Kid Cootie's fantastic in his role as the bad guy.
Yeah, I thought he was great here.
He's really good.
Gets to sing the Sonic 2 theme in the last movie, now is in this movie.
I like the joke that when they escape, that he's riding Knuckles against the moon like it's E.T., the extraterrestrial.
That made me laugh a lot. So the show has, like, quips of Knuckles being, like, funny, and even if Knuckles isn't, like, on screen, at least, like, I guess the comedy made me laugh enough. Like, again, not the funniest things I've ever seen, but, like, better than what I was expecting going into this.
Yeah, like, not every joke lands. Like, I do think, like, Wade's sister is a bit obnoxious. I think every single one of her jokes, like, I get the idea is, like, they're supposed to be, like, brother sisters, but, like, they're 5 years old in, like, adult bodies, where they're just, like, constantly bickering and constantly trying to one-up each other and stuff. Like, I get the joke, but it's at some point, it gets kind of old when it's, like, the same joke over and over and over again, and...
Yeah. I wasn't really big on Wade's sister, Wanda.
Yeah, Wanda.
That's her name, yeah, Wanda.
Wanda.
Wanda is a no for me, unfortunately.
Like, a lot of people are going to drop off the show around episode 3, and
yeah,
that's mainly because episode 3 is a big family drama episode. I mean, it's a comedy, but it's like, we go to Wade's house, and we meet his mother and his sister, and they're bickering amongst each other, and we're finding out why Wade is the way he is. And Knuckles is there.
Yeah, he's just kind of there commenting on everything. And again, it goes back to what we said earlier, where it's like, did you care about the human drama in the Sonic movies? Then this might be the episode where you drop off. And I understand. I do.
Yeah. But at the same time, I thought the ending of that episode is really fun. Like, I love the cinematography of, like, she doesn't want the candles to be affected. She doesn't want anything to happen to the candles. Even though, like, all this shit's happening. Like, the walls are being blown apart and, like, these bounty hunters are just tearing apart the house. But she doesn't want the candles to be damaged in any way. So, like, we have this cool 360 spin around thing where the camera is rotating around this kitchen table as Knuckles is fighting off all of these bounty hunters. And I thought that was actually a really cool action scene. I thought that was, like, really well done and well choreographed. And the ending of it, like, the fact that Knuckles did keep that intact and made sure nothing happened to the candles was kind of heartwarming and sweet. And I was like, oh, that's nice.
Oh, it's a nice character touch, I feel, for Knuckles. It's like the little pieces like that where I'm like, oh.
Like, there's this moment in episode 2 where they're at a gas station and they're talking about their upbringing and their fathers and, like, how their lives are, like, kind of very different from each other. And, like, there are moments like that I thought were kind of, you know, kind of heartwarming for the goofy comedy that this is. You know, it was something nice, something enjoyable.
For sure.
This is going to be the most polarizing episode, but I personally think it was the greatest episode of the show. It made me laugh the hardest, even if Knuckles is barely in it, which is episode 4, where Pachacamac, I guess, puts Wade into a dreamscape scenario where he is living out Knuckles' life. And so Adam Pally is wearing a Knuckles suit, and he's going through Green Hill Zone. Okay, so I'm not even describing it well because it's like a stage presentation of, like, a Sonic play or something. It's like a weird, bizarre live action cosplay Sonic art piece. It's like an art experience. I don't even know how else to describe it, but it's like he's dodging chompers and caterkillers and buzz bombers that are like props being held up by these green screen people. And he's going through the Sonic 2 half pipe, but it's all physical. It's all there. It's not CGI. This is an actual set, and he's wearing the costume, and he's, like, doing all this goofy shit while collecting these physical rings. It was hilarious. And, like, there's that part where he's talking to Knuckles' dad. And he's like, it makes me laugh just talking about it now, but it's like, Father, you can't die on me. And then for whatever reason, the guy was originally just a guy in a Knuckles costume, and now he's a puppet.
Yeah. I love it when shows do that.
And he goes, "Don't worry, son, I'll be..." And he drops dead, and his eyes turn into X's, and his tongue is hanging out, and Wade goes, "No!" And oh my god, that's comedy gold. I don't care. That's genius.
It is very genius. I don't know if y'all just don't like having fun or something. Some of y'all dropped off after episode 3, and I understand that, but episode 4 just hits the obscure, surrealist comedy heart in me that I love a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love this stuff. It's like so surreal and so stupid, but I love it so much.
It's got like that bizarre comedy, but it's also, you can see the heart and passion and like the creativity in every single frame. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. I love, there's this one part where they're simulating Wade as Knuckles gliding. So how do they do that is they make his entire like body a black suit, and he's wearing a gliding Knuckles helmet. Like, he's wearing a helmet that looks like Knuckles gliding so that you don't see Wade's body and you only see the Knuckles gliding part of his head, which is just really funny and really creative. And I wish I could get that helmet. That looks amazing. And yeah, it's like they still call into the lore of Sonic every now and then, because it's like, yeah, in that episode, he gets the bounty hunter's hat, which is exactly the hat he had in Sonic OVA.
Yeah.
They call back to Iblis and the Flames of Disaster of all things from Sonic 06.
How do you feel, 06 fans? Your favorite game came back in the form of a Paramount spin-off. I'm sorry. I had to say that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If you like 06, that's okay. I just thought it was hilarious. It was so mind-blowing. It's like, why would you do this? Why now?
I just think it's goofy how like some people be like, "Oh, that's how they used Iblis. What a waste of the character." And I'm like, yeah, they used Iblis of all things.
That's amazing. They used him for a Facebook Marketplace joke. Brilliant.
It's like, why couldn't we see Knuckles fight Iblis? And I'm just like, oh, whatever. It's just a dumb one-off gag about Knuckles' history. It doesn't need to be that deep. I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not going to deny that I did find episode 5 to be the weakest episode of the series, because that's when Knuckles just straight up disappears. Like, they never explain what he's been... Like, I guess he was watching TV in the hotel room. That's what he was doing. Because we just spend the whole episode just watching Wade reconnect with his deadbeat dad, Pistol Pete, played by Cary Elwes, who is doing a fantastic comedic performance because he's Cary Elwes and he's always good at that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a different kind of show. It's definitely not, it's not something you go to for Sonic.
No.
It's not Sonic specific things that you're going to get out of this show. But at the same time, it's an entertaining show. I think it's a funny show for what it is. And maybe it doesn't advertise Knuckles, but I enjoyed the ride.
I was led to believe going into the show that it was the worst thing that Sonic has ever produced. I was told it was the worst media. I was told it was the worst show. I was like all these things, and I was surprised. I was like, okay, really? All right. There was like a sneak peek of the show that went out a couple days before it hit streaming. And it was a clip of Wanda and Wade just fighting, you know, and that didn't help either. It was like, it's just the humans. And like, I understand, again, I've said it a lot, like, if you don't like the humans in the Sonic world, that's your thing. But
yeah,
I watched the series and I finished it and I'm like, really? That's what everyone's calling the worst thing ever? No, it's just, it's average. It's fine. It's mediocre. It's okay. It's all right.
I wouldn't even call it mediocre. I still say it's good. Like, not great, but it's good. Like, I think there's a lot of good laughs here. Episode 4 is absolutely worth watching. Like, episode 4 is absolutely worth getting Paramount Plus for a month just to see that zaniness, unless it's all on YouTube. I don't know. But,
like, I could tell you to just watch episode 4 for the artistry and surrealness that comes out of that, and you'll be fine if you have no interest in the show. Yeah. Like, watch it however you want to. But I just didn't think I just didn't think it was worth, like, the blowback. I'm like, really?
I see that kind of reaction, and I just see it as, like, Sonic fans have an expectation that wasn't met, you know? Like,
No.
they always want Sonic to be a certain thing, and when Sonic isn't that certain thing, they get really upset and angry about it. It seemed very similar to Rise of Lyric, a game that everyone told me was the worstest thing that's ever existed, and I just thought Rise of Lyric was just mediocre, and, like, kids would enjoy it just fine. I didn't see the worst game I ever played, just as this show was not the worst thing I ever saw. Again, I don't know what people expected, honestly, because, like, Sonic 1, the movie that came out in 2020, is very different from the games. You know, like, it's Sonic in the human world. He's in a town called Green Hills. He's hanging out with a cop named Donut Lord against a Robotnik with hair who's thin. It's very different from the games. Mm-hmm. It's not the same. Even Sonic's personality and characterization, where he's this lonely guy who wants a friend, that's not how the games are. That's not how Sonic is. Sonic has Tails in all the games. Sonic has Tails in the comics. Like, he's always got tons of friends in Sonic. And Sonic 1 was a very different interpretation of Sonic. And I remember that got a really great reception when it came out. And I don't know if it's just because the movie trailer Sonic, like the trailer version of Sonic, was erased, and they brought in Tyson Hesse to fix Sonic, and, you know, that's a lot of goodwill there. Like, yeah, a lot of great goodwill, but there's no Long Claw in the games. There's no owl mentor character in the games, you know? They took liberties. They did different things. There's a whole scene in the first movie where he's in the bar throwing darts at people and starting bar fights, and that's not Sonic, but you guys liked that movie. I don't know.
Like, there's this very unclear expectation as to what Sonic should be.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm not saying that, like, Sega shouldn't listen to longtime fans, because, again, I admit a big portion of the Sonic fan base are adults too, but, like, I'm not the target audience. If I like it, it's fine. But if I don't like it, and if I don't just enjoy Sonic anymore, which, for clarification, I still enjoy Sonic, but if I'm in a position where I just can't get into Sonic, I'm complaining about everything, I can just play something else. I can watch something else. It's okay to admit when something's just not for you anymore.
Yeah. But I personally am just rebelling against the idea that it's the worst piece of Sonic media ever, because one, it's legitimately funny. Two, the choreography and the action scenes and stuff are really well done. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When Wade is fighting Kid Cudi, when the episode 4 stuff is happening, even the bowling stuff, like, there's a lot of fun action scenes and a lot of fun things happening in this show that I just can't say and look at that and go, oh yes, this is objectively the worst piece of Sonic media that's ever existed. I'm like, it's no scratch and grounder, okay? You sit in a room for 30 minutes listening to Scratch and Grounder, and you'll just want to kill yourself.
Oh no. It's like, what am I... Like, obviously, I like talking to Sonic fans that are my age, but what am I to say, like, oh, this Sonic game is the worst thing ever, this, versus, like, a kid that might enjoy it? I don't know. That's just me, though.
Either way, I knew what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be like Sonic 1, only on a slightly smaller budget. And it was. Yeah. Although, I say smaller budget, but I don't know. There's a lot of great action stuff in this show that I think kind of trumps Sonic 1, to be frank.
Yeah.
Like, I wish Sonic 1 had that episode 4 crazy-ass dream sequence thing. Like, that would have made Sonic 1 10 times better.
You know what? They should reenact the Space Colony Arc accident in that style in the third movie.
Ah, that'd be amazing.
They need to. I would pay all the money for that.
Shoot Puppet Maria.
Yes.
I want them to reenact Maria getting shot, but with puppets. So ultimately, you know, I'm not saying it's the greatest show I've ever seen. I think it's a good show. I think it's an entertaining show. I laughed a lot. I think the action scenes are pretty good. And the actors are giving it their all, even if the material isn't always 100% awesome. There are some great jokes in there, you know. Like, even Wanda, broken clock is right twice a day, because at the end episode when her thumb was broken, she gives Knuckles the thumbs up. I died laughing at that. Like, that was hilarious to me. Like, I'm sorry. This is not the worst of anything. This is a pretty good show. And it's just not accurate to Sonic lore. But whatever. The first two movies aren't.
Again, we recommend this with reservations. So if you know what you liked in the Sonic movies, you know whether to watch this or not.
Right on. Well, folks, that's it for C Squared. We only had 2 topics today, and unfortunately, I forgot to ask my patrons to send in questions because I was so busy getting Mortal Kombat ready and my Patreon video ready, as well as, like, backup Patreon videos for my patrons to enjoy when this video goes up, because, yeah, I've been cranking out a lot of content this month, and I'm just looking forward to this all being a smooth transition so I can get back to the good stuff come June, and, yeah, I'd like to think that I'm back. I'd like to think that I'm back, baby.
You are. You never left.
But wasn't it nice to have a C Squared when we only had 2 things to talk about?
It was nice, given those 2 things were pretty big topics. It was very chill. It was very snuggly.
We still milked like 90 minutes worth of material out of it.
Yeah. Next podcast, we'll probably have more to talk about.
I'm going to play Persona 3 Reload for sure, so we'll definitely talk about Persona 3. You know what else I could do?
What?
I'm going to watch X-Men 97.
Yes, please do that. Oh my god.
We'll talk about X-Men 97 and Persona 3 Reload, at least. Because all I've been hearing is X-Men 97 is apparently amazing. Like, legitimately way better than anyone thought it was going to be.
X-Men 97 is incredible, and you need to watch that now. Like, I've never seen the original X-Men cartoon all the way through, which is something I did over the last month so I could watch X-Men 97. Oh, it was so worth it. The whole thing. Like, the 92 series, X-Men 97, all worth it. Good stuff.
Goddamn.
Cannot wait to talk about it.
Well, I'll find out for myself later. And I will definitely get this C Squared episode out in June. We're not going to wait 2 or 3 months to talk about it. I want this to go back to a monthly thing. I just had to get back into the groove, guys. I'm back in the groove. I think things are going to be going nice and smoothly.
Yeah, and also, I'll probably tweet this out, but because of travel stuff and things being really busy, I know Clement's definitely not going to TMG this year. I might go for a day, it depends, but just wanted to get that up there because we were there last year, and that is coming up next month.
Awesome possum.
So, yeah.
So yeah, this has been fun.
It was good.
Good shit. Such good shit.
No Vince. No Vince McMahon in these parts, man. It's over. It's a Triple H era.
Oh boy. Until next time, folks, I am the Great Clement.
And I am Caro.
And we shall talk to you next time.
Bye.